There's a couple of things that have changed with regards to my patterns, and they are simply this. The newest version of the pattern on the tail looks like that. The old version looked like this. And what we did was, whenever you cut this out, you actually cut on the dotted line. Well, now the dotted line is no longer there. We're just cutting on that straight line. And on the tail, I actually cut off the lines. And this is on both ends of the wing. The old version had a couple of things that have changed. The first thing is regards to these dashes here. You're still going to use the dash, but I don't have all of them marked. If we look at the new wing panel, you can see that there's only 3. There's one here, and one there. And that just marks the leading edge. There was really no reason to have all of those marks on there. So I removed those. Also, with regards to the tip, you can see if you have an older wing or one of the original wings, it had this mark here that you would cut out. Well, you no longer have to cut that out. All you need to do is take and draw a line from this point to that one, a straight line, and then cut that out. The new wing panel has that already done, so that line here and here are no longer there. They're not needed. One other thing, and this is really important, whenever you cut out the wing panel, you have the option, you can either leave the line or cut the line when you're doing the trailing edge and the ends. But on the leading edge, this is where the pocket is, you must leave the line. So you do not want to take the line off whenever you cut it. So be sure and leave that line. And then that way your pocket will be the correct size. Okay, so with that, let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to clear my table. Pretty quick, huh? Alright, and so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So that's going to be the first step, is to cut the wing panel out. And remember, I'm going to leave this line, and in my case, I'm going to go ahead and cut this line here off. So now I'm going to cut the leading edge, and again I want to leave this line on. So now you can see that I've actually left that line on. And remember, if you've gotten a latest layout, these lines here will not be on there. So now I'm ready to go ahead and tape the leading edge. The first step is to use the Dacron. Now, to be real precise here, I'm going to cut 2 pieces for the leading edge, and those 2 pieces are going to be cut 21 inches. The next thing I'm going to do is mark 7/8 of an inch from the dash at the leading edge. So I'm marking from the line back 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to do that on both ends on each wing panel. My lines are on the top side, so I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to start working from the bottom side. I'm going to peel back the tape here, peel off the sticky back, and peel the paper off. And I'm going to place my tape right on that line, just letting it hang over the edge here. But it's going to drop right down on the line that's there. Just like that. Keep this from sticking to the table, I'll put that down. So now we'll flip this over, and I'll take my piece of wood and go ahead and press down the tape and the material to get a good bond. So now I'm going to take this edge of the tape, lay it over, and line it up right on top of that line right there. So it's going to be just like this. And whenever I do this, I'm going to be pulling the tape so that I stretch it tight. And I'm also using my fingers here underneath to keep the bottom edge pulled tight. And you can lay your straight edge on your material so that it doesn't buckle. So now we're just going to put it down, and I'm going to touch it right on that line, mating the tape underneath, and pull it and touch it down just like that, and that's going to create this pocket. And same thing, I'm pushing my fingers under here, pushing this down and pulling this and pressing it down all the way, just like that. So now I'll take the piece of wood here and press it down really good. Fold the wingtip over. All you do is line this line right here up with the edge of your tape here. Or you can line this mark here up with that one. And then this here should all line up. Take and draw this like that. And now I know where to cut this. Just like that. We're going to work from the bottom side. I bring this edge here over to this edge so that I do not get my tape stuck to my board. So now what we can do is go ahead and flip this back over so that it's right side up, ink side up, and we want to tape it down to the table. Now this is my billboard, so I've got some marks on my billboard already, and I'm going to utilize those marks, so I'm going to be taping this down onto my board. I'm going to go ahead and put some marks. I'll mark in between the lines, and this is where the glue is going to go. Now I want this wing to be really durable, so I'm going to do an extra step on it. And what I mean by that is I'm going to add an extra pad of material where the carbon meets in this location here. So I'm going to cut some 3/4 inch pieces, and I'm just going to use the marks that are on the tape itself. to cut these pieces, and they're going to be square pieces, and I'm going to make them round. Okay, so now just stuck these dots down and we're pressing them in place. And we're ready for the next step. Okay, so now I've glued all of the carbons and have glue all the way through it. Just put a small bead down and then press the carbon into it, and then come back and wiped it. Now, a lot of times I would shift the carbon. Like you can see here, the carbon's not all the way to the end of the material. So I would drag my finger across it like this, and it would drag it down so that it's in the right place. So before you walk away from it to let it cure, you want to go ahead and look it over and make sure that all the carbon are, number one, over the marks, and then also make sure the carbons are all the way back toward the trailing edge. And these all look good. So now I'm going to let this dry, and while I'm letting this dry, I'm going to go ahead and work on the tail, and we're going to bring the tail up to this same stage where the carbons are glued, and we'll wait for it to dry. Okay, to complete the tail, you're going to need a surface to work on. In my case, I'm using a cabinet door that I have prepped specifically to build the tails with. You're going to need X-Acto blade. You're going to need the carbon set for the tail. And I have a piece of sandpaper or emery cloth, and also have a small set of files. I have the glue, my little squeegee, a knife in order to press in the carbon rods into the glue, masking tape, and the tail piece. So I'm going to separate these out, and I need to take the tail piece, and if you ordered the kit, it will come already together. If you ordered a tail kit, then it's going to be separate pieces, and you're going to put those together, and they are a good tight press fit. And but the way you know it's together is that on the bottom side, this bottom should look like that. Should have that little step in the middle there. So make sure it goes all the way down. And then you're going to press the carbons into the pockets, and once you do that, there should be a fairly tight fit, so that means you're going to be trimming the carbon. And what I like to do is rough up the carbon first and then check the fit. And this also helps the CA to stick to it. And you can see it's still a little tight, but that's good. Tight is good. So now I'm going to sand this one. Again, this just makes sure that there's a good solid surface, good roughed up surface for the CA to stick to. Now I'm going to use my trusty file set, and I'm going to not over file these, but I'm going to file these slightly. Open them up just a little bit because I want a good snug fit. Okay. So that's where that goes. And then let's see if we get this one in here. Yeah, so you can see that it doesn't take but just a little bit. And now I'm going to glue these together. And the way I glue them together is I lay them on a flat surface. Notice right now it's kind of teeter-tottering around. So I lay them on a flat surface and push them down. And then I get them where they both lay flat, and that's where they need to be. So I'm going to get my thin CA now and go ahead and glue these together. And I want to make sure that I keep this all flat, because this needs to stay flat. So no matter which way I turn it, that should be laying flat. And you can see that right now it is. So that's where it needs to be glued. So now I'm going to get my CA, and we'll CA it. Now, one other thing is I'm going to take the paper and I'm going to just rough up the top side and the bottom side. So now you can see I have roughed that up. And again, we will trowel fit these pieces. So now I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm going to drop that into thin CA. I'm going to wick it on here. And then I'm going to wick it on here. Making sure that it's flat. Okay. And now I'm going to wick it on this side. Again, I want to make sure that I have it flat, and I do. So now So now we can set this aside and let this dry, and it's best to let this part dry overnight. But now you can see how I go about doing that. And you just build up the CA, and that's thin CA. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the tail, and I'm taking off the black line. Okay, so here's the tail, and I'm going to go ahead and lay it down here, and you can see I have a board that has a nail here, here, and here, and if I lay this up here, I should be able to hit those nails, and I can, so I'm going to tape this in place right here, and I want to make sure to tape it so that the black marks are up. Now I want to take my carbon and I want to bring out the longest piece and set it aside, and then I want the next longest piece, they're going to go there and there, and then the shorter ones are going to go here and here. So I'm going to mark each line so that I know where to put the glue. So now we go ahead and check and make sure that the carbons are all the way out to the edge, and they are. And now we can set this aside and let that dry, and that's the beauty about having a board that's independent, both for building the wing and building the tail. You can switch back and forth and not disturb the carbon rods while the glue dries.